Hi, this is Judy from Fox City's Quilt Company, and this is Sunday from the sewing room. Except today I'm not in my sewing room, I'm actually in the shop because I wanted to show you a great trick that you can use your long arm to make the stitch and flip cuddle kits that we have here in the shop. If you have a long arm, it's really quick and easy to do these, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm going to show you how. So I've set up my machine here, and what I have is a 40 weight polyester thread for the top thread, as well as a 40 weight polyester thread for the bottom thread. I also have my backing fabric pinned onto my take-up rail as well as onto my backing rail. And you can see that that is all rolled up and ready to go onto the backing rail. I'll walk around to the front of the machine so that you can see that it is all set up and ready to go. So one of the things that I am going to use really a lot on this machine is what they call the channel locks, or the locking mechanisms that keep your machine going straight. If you have a Q-Neek, which a lot of our customers do, what we have is two locking mechanisms. One is on the machine itself, and it locks down so that the machine can only go back and forth. This is the one that we're going to be using. The other one is also on the frame, and it locks down so the machine can only go back and forth this way, and it can't go side to side. So again, we're going to be using the one that locks the machine so that we can go side to side. And let me show you what exactly we're going to do with that. So the first thing that I have done is, after my backing has been pinned in place and it's on my take-up rail, I also have the back of my machine, the channel lock set, and I put my batting on. So the batting is pretty slippery on the back of the Cuddle, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this down, and at the same time that I sew it down, it also is going to give me a nice straight line with which to line up my first piece of Cuddle. I like to start from the center and go out because I feel like it distributes all of the fabric evenly rather than going from all the way from one side to the other, which I feel like makes the fabric bunch up a little bit. I'm going to set my machine at about 10 stitches per inch, and I have just a neutral thread in here, so I'm going to have the needle go up and down or start the machine, and as you can see, it's only going to go one way. So I have a nice straight line in my batting, and I have gone from my center to the right, and now I'm just going to go from the center to the left using the same technique, and I'm just going to pull this out so it gives me a nice straight line. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to lay down my first Cuddle strip, and I am using the line that I basted my batting down as the alignment for my Cuddle strip so that I know everything is nice and straight. I've also moved my channel lock so that my foot is a ½ inch this way so that I can catch that first row. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm petting my fabric because I want to make sure of where my nap is going. My nap is all going down towards me, and that is the same way the nap is on the backing. And so I'm going to line this up so it is centered across the quilt, and it is lined up with the nice line that I made earlier by basting down the batting. Get that all lined up, and I may have to move my channel lock a little bit. Okay, that is all lined up. And yeah, I do want to move my channel lock a little bit. So I'm going to move it a little bit forward so that I can make sure that I catch a nice decent amount of the fabric underneath my foot. I like it to be a whole foot away from the edge. So this edge of the foot is at the edge of my Cuddle fabric. And so that's going to give me a really nice seam allowance. I'm also not going to worry about whether that thread is going to show, because it probably isn't once I get my binding on. So right now, what I'm going to do is, using the same technique, I am going to sew this down from the center to my right, and then come back from the center and go to my left again. And let me move the camera so that you can see me doing it at least one way. And it gets kind of loud with my microphone, so what I will do is probably not talk. I've taken a single stitch to pull that up. And now I am just going to just face this right down. All right, so I'm ready for my next Cuddle strip. I don't have to roll this up yet because there's plenty of room on my long arm to reach this row. So if I don't have to roll it up, I'm not going to. But what I am doing is, again, I'm petting the fabric. And remember, this is a stitch and flip method. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to make sure that the nap is going the wrong way. And then what I'm going to do is flip this up, line up the edges, and then I will pin across here, all the way across, and I will do the stitching again from the right to the left, and then from the left to the right. I will show you what it looks like pinned and right before I stitch it in just 1 second. Okay, so now I have pinned everything, and my pins are kind of staggered, as you can see, and the pin heads are facing to my right, going to my right, and they are facing to the left, going to my left. I like to do it that way so that I can pull pins out as I go along, because I don't want to run them over. I've moved my machine, I've set my lock, and I've checked it all the way across to make sure that it is a good seam allowance going all the way across, so I don't have to move it again. And now I'm ready to sew. So I flipped the last stitch I sewed over, and I'm ready to put on the next strip. So what I do is I make sure that that's pulled nice and tight so that there's no puckering. And I had to roll up the backing rail so that I could have some room to work. And then I'm just going to keep going, adding strips as I go, and always checking my nap on my strips, making sure that it's all going the right way. This is. So when it's this way, I can flip it up, do pinning, and I'm just going to keep going. And at the end, I'm going to show you my finished product, but it is really, really this simple for the stitch and flip. I'm just going to keep adding more strips, and I'll be back in 2 seconds to show you the finished product. So I've taken my project off the long arm, and here it is. It is a great big Cuddle quilt. All of these quilts are from Shannon Fabrics. I'll put the name of them at the bottom. This quilt is finishing about 60, maybe 58 by 68, and it has a Cuddle on the back. So let me flip this around so you can show you how great and straight those lines are. I don't think I could have gotten them that straight in my sewing machine. And I did that again on my long arm sewing machine. So you can do this with any project. It doesn't have to be a long arm. If you have a mid arm, if you have a machine on a frame, your frame just has to be as wide as the project, or your project has to be more narrow than your frame. Just lock those channels, or if you have a steady hand, you can just walk it straight across, and you have a perfect stitch and flip project. This is Judy from Sunday from the Sewing Room. Thanks for watching.